to the Creator Toolbox. My name is Chuck Tomasi, Senior Developer Advocate at ServiceNow, and I am so happy that you are here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, wherever you are and whenever you are. Oh, this is a solo session. Just me. Brad is on holiday, having a great time wherever he is. We wish him well. And this feels kind of like the old community live stream day. So good to see you. Glad you're here sharing with me. And I've got a treat for you. We are going to be covering getRefRecord. So a little bit of scripting in here, and I'm going to explain some concepts along the way. So if you haven't used this before, this is one of my favorite utilities. So I don't have any announcements yet, but I'll give you something at the end. Don't forget about that. I'm trying to roll through this. It's a little different after being used to co-hosting for a while. The low volume, he says. Let me see if I can boost that. Let's see. Can we get that? Let me do a little testing. Nope, that's not it. I'm going to try and boost it here. No, sorry, I've got some controls to deal with. So there may be one other thing that I can check, and that would be my Zoom volume. Thank you for letting me know. Audio settings. Audio input, audio output. The input volume seems really low, but I can't adjust it on Zoom. So what could be the issue? Check. Moving meters over there. Just looking around. Apologize for the audio issues. Let me get that any higher. I thought it might be a Windows thing. Hold on. Can you hear me now? That ought to be a lot better. Probably too much. Let me back that off just a little bit. Might be a little distorted. How's that? Still low? We'll give you a second because I know it takes a few seconds to get that. I'm watching the meters on OBS. Okay, apologies for that. There we go. Thank you for the feedback. It would have been disappointing to do that at a low volume. So let's get on with it. Again, getRefRecord is today's topic. So this is one of my favorite utilities to use in scripting. I will go slowly through these concepts. I'm going to give you a sample use case and relate it to some of the other use cases you've got. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to do my screen share real quick. Again, solo operation here. First time doing this with OBS and the Zoom setup. Used to do this with Wirecast all the time, and it was just click, click, done. So let me share. It's so much easier with a two-person job. Let's get desktop 2 shared, and then I will cut over to the right scene so we have our topic and everything else. There we are. I'm on my personal developer instance. So this is an application that I use as an example. It's got multiple tables in it. At the top level, I have a program table. These are just, you can think of them as college programs or curriculums or whatever. It could be, I've got a program, and then underneath it is one or more courses. Under each course is one or more tasks. So it's a 3-tier setup, very similar to the way the catalog has requests and request items. Wow, it's been a while. Request items, and then catalog tasks. So 3-tier setup, where the tasks reference the item references the request. Well, in mine, you can see over here, even on the menu, it's listed out this way. Bring that in a little tighter. I've got tasks that reference courses that reference programs. So here's a common situation we run into from time to time. Make sure that's about the right size. We'll make it as big as possible without going crazy. I may open up a course record. Okay, this is in the middle of that structure. And I'm waiting to open up my course record. There we are. Okay, open up my course record. Nowhere on here does it say how many students are in the course. The students are also a related list that refer to the course. So if I want the number of students, I either have to go count them myself out of this record, or because there's logic already built in to sum up all the students for all the courses in a program, I could look at the program record. And you can see here's 38. So how many students are in here? I either have to do it via script or rely on the field that's already there. So the instant solution that many of would say is, let's dot walk. Okay. If you're new to ServiceNow, you may be new to that term. What it refers to is the ability to get the data from a reference field. Program, if I right click and say show, program is a reference field. You can see that right here. It references this table. Type reference, here's the table, it references the program table, and not much else to say about that. Okay, here's the table it is on. It's on the course table. The field is called program. It's of type reference. You can get some details real quick from the dictionary info without actually going into the dictionary. So we talk about reference fields for a long, long time, but they're a way to reference a record on another table. I am referencing the IFF program record in this particular case. What I would like is this information off of that. Well, since I don't have it on the course record, the simplest solution, you may say, is let's just get it by dot walking. And we call it dot walking because here's a sample of how that script might look. I say, get me a new glide record on that table. I will go get this by ID. This happens to be the Fleen record that I'm looking at. And this is the system ID or the GUID or the ID of that record. And you can get to the student count by saying course record.program. That's the field. And it has a field on it called student count. It's an implicit way of getting that record and returning one of its properties. And if I run this, I'm going to go to either script background. I can do this from script background, paste, run, or I'm having a really good time with Explorer lately. Paste it there and run. I understand I can do a control enter, and it says empty, empty. That's not right. Back to scripts background. Program student count. It says 38. There it is. Not sure why it gave me an empty object. There's some other information in here too. It says this is the first time that this scope has referenced this, so I'm probably in the wrong scope. Yeah, I'm in timer. I want to be in CLS 323. Then I won't have to make a whole bunch of records in the cross scope stuff. So somewhere in here is my output. I'm in CLS 323, run the script. I don't have any output because I don't have any script in there. Okay, try that again. 38. 38 is, in fact, the record we saw when we went back to the Fleen course .walk2 program, and I can verify that very easily on the form. So you say, there, Chuck, that was a short, but you came here to talk about getRefRecord. Let's get to getRefRecord. That we can do very easily because you want, the use case for getRefRecord is I don't want just one property, one field value from that record. I want the whole thing. There may be other functions that I'm calling that need the whole thing. So that script would look more like, I'm not going to show you getRefRecord yet. I'm going to show you the brute force way that somebody would do if they didn't know about getRefRecord. So this is, forget the top part for a minute. Here is my get a course again. So go instantiate a glide record object, get a course record, same record. And then if you didn't know about getRefRecord, this is how you might approach it. Get the value of the program field. I'm going to call that program ID. Go instantiate a glide record for that called program GR, and then get that program record. Okay, I'm assuming there's a value there. You would obviously want to do some checking. If the value was empty, null, you get the idea. You don't want to do a get if there's no value. Then you could say, let's call that function that wants an entire glide record, because it may be doing something with it, processing, turning it into an object, sending it out with a REST API, We don't know. We just know that we need to call this function and pass it an entire program glide record. Well, in our case, we're just going to print out some information about the various fields on there. Regardless, it needs a glide record. I can't do this with dot walking, or I'd be dot walking for every field I want. That's not cool. In some cases, I'm doing a get value to get the name. Others, I'm doing a Boolean. You get the idea. Let's run that in scripts background. This time I'm going to open it in a new tab so that I can hop between it. So define a little function, print out some stuff, and there I have lots of wonderful data. Program owner is empty. Is program owner actually empty? Let's find out. Program owner is in fact empty. So this appears to be working. Nice little function. But I had to do that second lookup. I had to do this part right here manually to get the record. Not exactly optimal. So that's where getRefRecord comes in handy. It allows you to get the entire record by passing it to, by calling it on a reference field. It's actually a method on glide element, not glide record as you would think. Let me go to the documentation, and you can see right here, getRefRecord is part of glide element. Glide element has to do with all of the field or column attributes. So when you look at glide record, it's about the record, the table name, the fields that exist on that table. All of that information is about the glide record. Glide element is one more detail drilled in. This is about the fields themselves. Can you write to this field? What if the field changes? What if the field value changes? What if it changes to something or from something? You may have seen these, say, in conditions on business rules or UI actions. If the field changes to false, that kind of thing. Lots of very interesting methods. I'm not going to go through all of them, but let's take a little more look at getRefRecord. Returns a glide record object from a given element. I simply pass it a field, and it looks like I'm dot walking, but this attaches onto the end of that field. So in my case, instead of looking up the record with a glide record query, I can get the whole thing by getRefRecord. Get the reference record. Whatever this thing is pointing to, go get it. Now I want to do some other interesting stuff here. So let's take a look at what that script would look like in tab 3. Here's the old script. You can see down here on line 17, 18, 19 is where I did the manual lookup. Watch what happens to that on this script. I commented the 2 out and it becomes one line. It just program.getRefRecord. Very simple to use, but very powerful. Makes your script a whole lot easier. Sorry, I gotta take a sip of wonderful tea. Let's take that same script, put that into scripts background. Missed. There it is. And I should see the same information up here in the function. The function hasn't changed. The way I call the function hasn't changed. Just how I'm getting that initial record. And hooray, I get the same results, so I validated what I've got. getRefRecord, very easy to use. I use this all the time when I'm building out objects. I've got an app where I've got a user, and the user has a profile, and the profile has details about, how many things they own or how many things they've closed, or just a lot of stats that are down a level. But with getRefRecord, I can easily get to those and build out an object to maybe pass to Service Portal or pass to a REST API or whatever it is that I want to build that on. Now, my curiosity as I was just talking is, what if program is empty? What if program doesn't point to anything? Let's go to CLS 323. Try that again. CLS, wow, doing great on the fingers today. Create a new course that points to nothing. So the nothing course. And it will be part of the science track, because we're doing science here. Biology sounds good, just filling in the recommended mandatory fields. I don't think there's anything else that's mandatory on here. Save that. Copy its sysid. And don't ask me why I did one from the top bar and one from the menu. I have no idea myself. Let's put in this new ID. See what happens. It says null, false, null, null, null. Okay, so when it did the glide record query, it didn't say, hey, you can't do that because this is null. It effectively got me a record with all the default values. How do I know that? Because active defaults to false. If I go to the programs record and I say show or configure, excuse me, configure table. Let's see, does it, this will tell me if it actually used a null value or the default values. And I say, there it is, active actually defaults to true. So it didn't get the default values. Interesting. It didn't do a new record kind of thing. It did more of an initialize. It gave me the space, it gave me all the properties. It says, here's what's in the program record. So I just learned something. Here's what's in the program record, but since you didn't give me a sysid via the program field, you get nothing. So you may want to put in some logic in your script that may or may not look something like this, that says, let's do it here. It'll be a little easier to read. We'll take out the old piece and say if course.program. Now, here's something that you're often tempted to do, is reference fields as though they are their own thing. To say, does this have an element? Does this have a value? Remember, program is a glide element. It's an object. It has all kinds of properties. So it's unfair, or actually a misconception, to say, I'll treat it like a Boolean. I'll treat it like any truthy falsy field. Because it's an object, there really is no false. Okay? So don't treat it like that, but rather, I'm going to spend a variable here and say program ID equals course.gr.getValue program. That gets that value of that field. It's no longer an object. It is a JavaScript value thing. Okay. Then I can say if program ID, then it is safe to go and get, let me boost that up a little bit, using VS Code. So, and I'm not using the ServiceNow plugin, so it's kind of making some assumptions on me. I'll get that. It's safe to do that. It's safe to do that. Otherwise, you could always spit out a message, else gs.info, no program specified. You make up your own error messages. Mine are usually nonsensical. This is a safer way to do it. If you're doing some scripting and you want to use a value, or you're doing dot walking especially, if you do dot walking and there is no program and you say, go get me the program student count, you could get a null pointer exception. Believe that's been better mitigated, better protected, but it's still a safe thing to do. So there I have a value. However, if I go back to the record that I created that was new, where was my bummers? Courses. Where's that nothing course? There's the nothing course. Copy sysid, pop that one in. Now we don't need to modify that one. We'll modify this one. Pop that one in for nothing. There, I even updated my comment just for one little run. It says no program specified. So I'm doing a little bit of error checking before I assume that I can go and get that value. getRefRecord, very powerful. I'm going to keep this one short. Brad will hopefully be back next week where we have more information. Let me stop the screen share, give you a wrap up. No, not that end screen button. Let's go. All right, again, one-man show, doing the screen thing. Stop screen share, bring that back to where I can keep an eye on that. There we are. So getRefRecord, very powerful for getting the record values. Need to also transition back to here. Sorry. Yeah, one-man operation, different software that I'm used to using. Normally, I'd be pushing buttons to do all this. But regardless, keep an eye on opportunities to use getRefRecord if you need the entire record, because often I write functions that accept an entire glide record rather than one or two parameters from that record. Totally depends on you and your situation. If the function is processing an entire record and it's from the same table every time, getRefRecord works great there. I never have to think again about if I had a field and I had a parameter and I got to work my way back through the API changed. Where else am I calling that function from in my application? Gets kind of messy. If it's always the same record type, I'm always managing that program GR object. getRefRecord is a wonderful way to minimize the maintenance you have to do on the API and on the function. I create a new field on the table. I don't have to tell my function to accept a new parameter, and everybody who calls that needs to know this new method of calling it. Because that's really expensive and really a pain when you have to go back and refactor code when you change the parameters that are passed to a function, and the function's been in use and called from all over the place. Ugh. Okay. getRefRecord can help mitigate some of that. Hope I cleared things up. Few special announcements. We do have an episode of Tech Now coming up next Tuesday on June 29th. Hope you can be there. Same time. There will be no Creator Toolbox because that's the Tech Now week. So same place. Go to devlink.sn/tn87 blog. You see the details about that, or tn87 reg. devlink.sn/tn87 reg if you want to register for that. We are covering DevOps with Charn Lin. He is the guy who owns a lot of the program developer tools, the CLI, Studio, a lot of those tools. So if you've got questions, you want to know more, he'll tell you about our DevOps, where we are on our journey. We are not done. There is still a lot more DevOps stuff to come. We've got an episode of Breakpoint coming out tomorrow, the 23rd. And if I remember, that's the one with Julian Mills, where we're going to be talking about presentations, just the preparation steps of presentations, the work that goes into preparing for a good presentation. Because you don't want to be that person that is not prepared and your presentation falls flat. So we've got some really good information. I encourage you to check that out. devlink.sn/break-point is where you can find that information. I'll put links in the notes to this episode. And until then, I guess that's it. Someone else had told me about getRefRecord a while ago. Thank you, James. Yeah, it's been one of those little understood, easily overlooked thing. And I invite you to look through the glide element page. getRefRecord is just one of those many methods that we saw earlier about how to access and manage the elements, the fields on your form via script. Server-side script, I should mention. Very powerful stuff. Until next time, I wish you all well. Take care, and I will see you soon, if not sooner. I should have had this prepared. So let me get that ready, play the music, and wave you all goodbye. Take care. See ya.